What's up, everybody? It's a day 64 of 100 days of code, and it's your boy Kendall once again signing in. And we all know the rules of 100 days of code by now is one, we code 1 hour a day. Two, we keep ourselves accountable. Two, keep ourselves accountable to you fine people. Three, we also let you know about our thoughts and our feelings. So, what did we get up to today? Well, it's been quite the day. So today we started at 11 with School of Code. Before that, I was doing a bit of Code Wars, solved a 5 KYU, and I actually solved two 5 KYUs, which was fun. And then I proceeded to sort of look at how I can build some components for the project, messed around a little bit more with databases this morning, had fun with that. Read a little bit about some more use conventions, so like you use hooks, and those sort of things. So other ones other than like you use memo and the other one's gone from right now, but I was just basically taking a look at different hooks that you could use and seeing what they could do, reading a few of the beta docs, that sort of thing, and just messing around with them really, coding them in, seeing what happens, testing them out, just having fun really with that sort of thing this morning. Watch a couple videos on that, then trying it out. Yeah, so I had fun with that. Today at School of Code, it was the beginning of week 10. Week 10 of School of Code. So we got to meet with our team from last week, which we were in a team. Athena was my team. So today we got to sort of do what they call an Atlassian retrospective. So Atlassian sort of a brand that sort of talks about how to do retrospectives, and we did sort of a project retrospective, and so we were sort of doing our best to talk about sort of what went well. So we spoke about sort of things that went well, like, and we brought up a Trello board like we normally did last week. And we talked about under what went well. We used one of the templates from Atlassian as well. And we sort of went through things that went well. So talked about following our plan went well, communication went well, the having two stand-ups and retrospective went really well. We felt that really helped our rhythm. Sort of breaking into the two different teams and then coming back together and sort of seeing if there's any more help needed. That went really well. Connecting the front end and back end went really well, and following that article that we found. Um, all those things, really. There were a lot of things that went well. What we could improve on. So we were really getting nitpicky. We were talking about, sort of how we could do better and how we can improve. That was always a bit tougher. We thought that maybe we could have been more detailed on sort of our component tree and sort of how we looked at that. Maybe we could have had a more detailed plan on how we were going about our MVP. Maybe we could have made it a bit simpler and maybe put a bit more focus on making the code cleaner and making the components better in that sort of way. Yeah, things like that we spoke about as well. So that was very interesting. Um, then we also we looked at um, essentially looked at doing code reviews and those sorts of things. So today we've been talking about, Lord, how to review somebody's codes and how to accept feedback as well when somebody's reviewing your codes. So we watched a talk from a Ruby on Rails conference, but there was somebody speaking specifically on how to do code reviews, how to also be the one who receives the review, but also be the one who does the reviewing. And so there were different sort of techniques that he was talking about. One of my very favorites that he spoke about is he spoke about that when you're essentially what we're talking about code review is you're looking at somebody's code. So for example, in our projects, we had a front end and we had a back ends. On the front ends, they'd be looking at sort of the components, the layout, the folders, looking at sort of maybe what the functions were called, the naming conventions, those sorts of things. They'd be looking at sort of the logic, looking at maybe the styling, things like that, and seeing, first off, does it make sense? And could it be done simpler? Does it make sense and could it be made simpler? And then when we were giving our feedback, One of the things we learned from the video that we watched, which is about a 37-minute video, it basically spoke about, asking and not telling. So you might say something like, um, could it be simpler if whatever, or have you considered this? Could you clarify that? And you ask questions as opposed to sort of making demands, and rather than stating facts and things like that. So we spoke about those different things. So that was really interesting. And then following watching that video and sort of learning a bit more about how to do code reviews, our next step was then they're on Zoom because I do a remote boot camp with School of Codes. Essentially, there were two different rooms. So there was our group and then another group. And sort of we got access to their code and they got access to our code, both the back end and the front ends. And on both sides, we did code reviews for one another. And so the way that we approached it is we brought up a Google Docs and we sort of went through the different components of the front end, and then some of us took the back end and we broke that down as well and asked those right sort of questions, the asking, not telling, and went through and just looked for things that we could do that were constructive, things that were helpful, things that could maybe either make it simpler or make it easier to understand. So things like that. And so that was a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, then we shared that feedback with the other team in a helpful way. And that was our first time ever doing that. So it was really enjoyable. My thoughts and basically this week, the way they began is they mentioned, they said, now you're developers. That was cool to hear. And kind of like, you're like, am I really? And I think that first, you're like, me? I'm a developer? Really? You still think that, right? But it's because we worked in that team last week. We've mirrored that. We've done tickets. We've learned a lot, and we can do a lot, and we can work within a team. And now we're developers. So now we're sort of learning how to work in an independent way, how to sort of do things that won't be modeled in the real world, things that we'll actually be doing. So things like code reviews will be something to be regularly a part of our job and part of our work. So really interesting to do today. My thoughts are, I feel very enlightened. I feel very, I really enjoyed that. I wasn't very good at it because I'm not in the practice of of doing that yet, but hopefully with time I'll get better, get more of a critical eye, and I'll learn what to sort of look for more. But I was able to pick out a few points. So on the positive side, I was able to find a few things. So that was really cool. And I really enjoyed it. All in all, great day. Had a lot of fun. Can't believe it went so fast. I mean, I know the rest of the boot camp's going to go super quick. So whatever the case, how am I feeling and what are my thoughts? My thoughts are, I'm excited about the next few days, see what we're going to be learning about. And I had so much fun seeing my team again. It was so great to see them. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the adventure holds for me next. Anyways, guys, that is day 64 of 100 Days of Codes. Peace out. See you guys soon, and take care.